Patch notes, patch notes, patch notes. My stream, or not my stream, but rather my computer kind of turned itself off, like immediately before the stream started, maybe 5-10 minutes. So by the time I restarted back up, I was like, I ain't gonna stream this. But we still get patch notes. First of all, Secrets of the Atlas is all real cool stuff. 3 new pinnacle bosses and a built-in cast-on crit axe, which is gonna be like a very, very pinnacle chase unique type thing. It probably shows. They might show it here. But this is just all the new stuff added in the Secrets of the Atlas, which is it's endgame stuff. It's mapping. There's new mapping stuff, new bosses. Cool. Yeah, sure. We find Xana again, which is exciting. Don't get me wrong, but at everything that they announced, it is to me somehow one of the least exciting things. Though I guess the memory threads or strands, whichever ones happen on items, to help you get higher tier modifiers, very nice. But this is what I'm really excited about: the Mercenaries of Charthus Challenge League, because you've got mercenaries. And when you've got mercenaries, that means that you can play an Aura bot without having to try to convince one of your friends to play Path of Exile, which means I get to play an Aura bot. So I'm going to play a solo Aura bot adventures. That's going to be my Path of Exile experience. 40 new challenges, 8 new challenges in Ruthless. Each piece earns Watcher's Wrath armor set. That's quite nice. Wonder what that's going to look like. I like when they do armor sets, which I feel like most of the time it's armor sets, but occasionally there's like a character effect thrown in there or something like that. So it'll be quite nice to get a new armor set, especially if it has like some effects like the Ghost Veil or the, which makes your like, is it your mana or your energy shield? I think it's both actually. It makes them like ghostly. And the Lotus one, I think it's Night Lotus helmet that makes your health bar purple and covered in vines. So if it's got anything similar to that, that'd be very cool. New Exalted Orbs, Shaper and Exalted Orbs, Focused Channeling, new Intelligence Dex Gem. What are channeling spells you cast yourself significantly empower the damage of supported skills the longer they are cast, while also increasing their cost the longer they are cast. Cannot modify the skills of minions. So they showed, and it'll probably be shown later in these notes, they showed that there were changes to Winter Orb, but they happened so fast I couldn't tell. So I'm hoping that with Focused Channeling, since it significantly empowers it, that means if you hold it, like basically you just hold Winter Orb until you're out of mana, and then you can run it across the entire map to get like giga damage out of it. Okay, strands are the crafting one. Those are nice, having the strands. The Orb of Remembrance being, you have your base item, and you have a way to craft it, because it can often happen that with like Harvest and stuff like that, you can guarantee, or at least have like, it's like a 50-50 chance to get the mod that you want, but if you get the mod that you want, it could be tier, 5-1. So with this, you can memory strand it, do your like alt and aug spamming, which will eat some of those memory strands, but depending on how rare the Orb of Remembrance is, you scour and then go again. This one is a very interesting one. Consumes all memory strands on an item to attempt to upgrade the tier of explicit modifiers based on the number of memory strands consumed. If they're already all tier 1, can you get ascended modifiers? Because I know there are ascended, like, influenced modifiers. Can you get those with the Orb of Unraveling? And then Orb of Intention is just a little nice, It'll probably be the cheapest of the 3. I'd imagine that Unraveling will be the most, Remembrance will be the second priced, but it'll be very close, and then I think Intention will be significantly cheaper. 20 new uniques, some of which from Dueling Mercenaries. 5 new div cards. You can pause the game, but not during pinnacle boss fights. Rogue Harbor without Rogue Marker, that's nice. Maximum number of players in a single instance has been halved. It's just less lag, that's okay, I don't do heist. Message is output whenever a nameless seer or reflecting mist spawns randomly. That's very nice, just so you don't miss them. And a very small thing, guilds aren't huge, but you can cancel unaccepted invitations. And then general improvements. No longer gain or lose experience in Pinnacle boss fights. No Atlas memories. But Kirak can just give you missions that are the Atlas memories. Nice. Breach splinters. They're just automatically collected and dropped when the breach is over. That's so nice. Commonly found scarabs now drop at higher stack size than higher tier maps, but are found less often. Oh, that's actually quite nice. In my eyes. Just less clicking. Instead of clicking, 5 times once every minute, it's once every 5 minutes. That's, random numbers. You can reroll your Elder Guardian Conqueror maps. Completing a non-unique map at a tier lower than is naturally found no longer grants map bonus objective. That's a little annoying, but overall that's not really a big issue. Improved level generation of blighted maps, so they fail to open less often. Nice. Oh, we've got our new maps. We're losing burial chambers, which sucks. I like burial chambers. Anything else that I really like that we're losing? Not really. Looks like we're keeping Strand, which is nice. Strand is my favorite map. What are we getting back, though? Acid Caverns, Arid Lake, Arsenal, Bazaar Canyon. Canyon's fun. Conservatory, Frozen Caverns, Ghetto, Grave Trough, Iceberg, Ivory Temple. I like Ivory Temple, I think. No, I'm thinking of the unique map, where you fight Solaris or Lunaris, and you can get the Divided Hideout. I think it is based off Ivory Temple. Phantasmagoria is, I think, really good for Blight. That's fun. Maps are fine. The map bosses have changed for the Pantheon. That makes sense. Crafting recipes. This is just reminding me also that they removed a bunch of crafting recipes from Betrayal, all the veiled ones, and now they're just found in maps, which is really nice. Atlas passive skills that provide additional chance for your maps to contain a master or extra content that can be turned off through Atlas passives. Now also cause scarabs to have an increased chance to be scarabs of that type. That's really nice. So if you choose, like, hey, this has an extra chance for your maps to contain delirium mirrors, it'll also give you an extra chance to get delirium scarabs, just making it even easier to stick with like the content you like. Intelligence gathering notable Atlas passive has been replaced with the new lethal extraction notable. Causes executing immortal syndicate members in your maps to grant intelligence to their current division equal to 2 times their rank. I feel like that needs to be higher than 2. Gain 6 total intelligence for executing one of them. Keep in mind, intelligence gathering gave you 10. Actually, no, yeah, since I'm pretty sure intelligence gathering is the one that just gave you 10 to a random one, which it actually, and if that's the case, 2 is perfectly fine. Because you might be getting, like, might only be getting 1, so you might, if they're all already rank 3, you might only be getting 6, but you might be getting multiple, you might be getting fortification. You get 3 of them there. They're all rank 3. You get 18 out of that. Plus, they might have, like, allies that come in from other places, so never mind, that's actually fine. I was thinking of that 2 didn't seem like a lot, but if it's replacing 10 to a random one, much better, actually. That's assuming that intelligence gathering is the node I'm thinking. But anyway, straight and narrow notable Atlas passive has been replaced with new minor strike, which prevents ore deposits and Kalgarian scarabs from appearing in your maps. I don't remember what straight and narrow was. But, if you don't want the Settlers of Kalgar, fine. 2 Atlas memory clusters. Oh, for the memory threads. And then the Lucky Memory Strands. Settlers added to core game is basically just settlers, but you don't have to rebuild the town. Good. Also, it's rune graphs instead of the rune enchantments, which replace masteries on your tree. That's nice. There's quite a few of them. This is all like the Atlas passive stuff. Don't really care too much about it. I might end up doing some of it. Only 5 job rankings for King's March workers. Very nice. Adjusted bananas to more closely match the size of the Calgaran version. Moved a lamppost in King's March. Very nice stuff. Yeah, here it is. Tattoos, but then rune graphs. You can replace... this rune graphs replace rune smithing, and they apply to masteries. Depending on what some of them are, they could be very strong. Mastermind boss fight is now separate from Betrayal. It's improved with fewer immunity phases, new rewards. That's good. Not be accessed if you have not unlocked the endgame. Sounds about right. Right, the veiled modifiers on Mastermind's uniques can now unveil some modifiers that are exclusive to those uniques, which is nice. And Katarina drops all flame embers. Oh, and she drops Katarina drops rare double veiled items. That's cool. Time taken to reach a safe house is overall longer than before. Okay. Maybe I was right on that intelligence gathering not being as good, but maybe it balances out with this. And safe house leaders, right, it's you only execute them because now you just get a potential, like, basically map drop. That'll let you go fight Katarina instead of having to interrogate your way up to her. And also, safe house rewards reworks. Intensity stacks are now lost every half a second instead of every quarter of a second. Okay. Arcane Surge, 20% increased cast speed. Alright. Okay, skill gems. Here we go. Animate Guardians now retain their items, but if it dies, you cannot resummon it in the same area. That means that I am more likely to play minions. Not super likely, but more likely. And definitely not to the start, because I'm going to be doing solo Orobot. Anything here that I actually care about? Bane, no. Blade Blast, no. Blade Blast, no. Blade Flurry, no. Blade Trap of Great Swords, no. Blade Trap, no. Blade Flurry, no. I could just scroll all the way down to where I care about stuff, but I do want to see just in case there's something that, like, piques my interest. Immediately, like Burning Arrow of Vigor. Got a buff? 75% attack speed, previously 70. It cost 1 less base mana, and now it deals fire damage from 21 to 32 instead of 15 to 24. Okay, so for some reason, Burning Arrow of Vigor got a buff. Congrats, Life Stackers. Oh, Cold Snap got a buff. Slight damage buff, 220 to 390 instead of 220 to 320. Slight damage buff, like flat and percent damage buff at the end. And yeah, just that's alright. Slight contagion buff, which is nice. It really, contagion needs an AoE increase, a base AoE increase to be usable again. Or not usable, but to be good again. Death's Aura from the Death's Oath body armor got a 25% base damage buff. There we go. Detonate Dead of Chain Reaction, pretty big nerf there. 65% added damage, and it only, yeah, and it does like 65 probably. So that just got a straight 35% across the board nerf to DD of Chain Reaction. Good. Detonate Dead has been like the go-to skill for far too long. Essence Drain. Essence Drain also got a damage buff, so Essence Drain Contagion could be a thing, but I still think Contagion needs an AoE buff for that to be a big thing. Exsanguinate buff. That's nice. Eye of Winter of Finality and Transience. Okay, so base Eye of Winter got nothing. But, here we go. Eye of Winter of Finality got a slight effectiveness of added damage buff. It takes slightly longer to cast and costs slightly more mana. It fires 16 shards instead of 12, so more shards is nice. Slight damage buff to the flat damage as well. Okay, so it gained 4 projectiles, but then lost 2 from quality. So it just gained 2 free projectiles, kind of, and 20% more up to 20% more damage as the projectiles kind of go across the screen. And Eye of Winter of Transience also got a 20% damage buff, and it casts slightly faster, and it costs slightly less mana. Okay. Not the big buffs that I think that Eye of Winter really needs in order to be usable self-cast. But it's still a pretty good like cast on crit or mines or Arcanist brand. But I feel like one of these days all like sorts of triggers are going to be nerfed just kind of like across the board. And when that happens, I feel like a lot of base skills are going to get buffed. And when I say triggers, I mean like the supports, cast on crit. You know, the skills that are inherently mines won't, but I feel like mine supports that can change anything into a mine will, just because of how strong they are. But we'll see. Saw this, both Frostblades got hit with some pretty big damage nerfs. Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice takes some more energy shield, but deals some more damage. Not bad. Oh. Ice Nova Frost Bolts can only go on 2 Frostbolt projectiles instead of 4. But it no longer has 25% less area of effect when cast on Frostbolt, but it does have about 30%, about 25-ish percent, just less base area of effect. So that is a Ice Nova Frostbolt's kind of like clearing nerf. Lightning Conduit of the Heavens buff, got better shocks. Oh, Molten Strike of the Zenith nerf, that's not surprising. Small damage nerf there, but then the big one, big hit's got a big nerf. Power Siphon damage nerf, but attack speed buff. And same with Power Siphon Archmage. Damage nerf, attack speed buff. Reap damage buff. Ooh, Scorching Ray might be... I don't think it'll overtake Flame Trap, but I think it's closing the gap there. Additional debuff stage now adds 80% of damage, previously 60%, and quality now provides fire exposure applied. Or fire exposure applies -5 to fire resistance at max quality instead of additional damage. So you can get some extra fire exposure there. So Scorching Ray, I still don't think it's going to be better than Fire Trap for now, but getting that fire exposure, giving extra -5%, it's on its way. Spellslinger buff, ooh, base mana reservation of 20%. Previously it was 30 down to 25, so Spellslinger buff, that's nice. Soul Rend, just some flat damage buffs. I don't think it's going to make them super useful, but I like Soul Rend enough. Don't really care about any of this stuff, except maybe Summon Reapers. Okay. Summon Reapers of Eviscerating have a chance to aggravate bleeding. Oh, and Summon Reapers of Revenant at max level gets an extra... I mean, not at max level, but once it gets to max level, plus maybe some levels underneath that, gets an extra Reaper. Ooh, Void Sphere of Rending. Now is a base radius slightly increased, pulses slightly more often, and quality provides some... okay, so it got its quality radius for free, Now it gains extra duration off the quality, and it pulses slightly more often. Nice. And here were the Winter Orb changes. 80% of added effectiveness of added damage, which is just a damage buff. It's a slight damage buff at level 1. Slight damage buff. Basically a 1/3 buff, pretty much. Just damage buff. Maximum of 8 stages, previously 10. Okay, so it loses a little bit there, but it gains 30% increased duration per stage, previously 25. Which is still a 10% duration nerf. But it has 125% more projectile frequency when channeling. Previously it was 150. And increased projectile frequency per stage. Okay, so you get slightly less duration and slightly worse stats while you're channeling it up. But once it's fully channeled at max stages, especially potentially with the new focused channeling, decent buff to Winter Orb, which is already, with enough investment, a very good skill. That's my only downside, is that, I mean, don't get me wrong, Winter Orb, getting a damage buff is quite nice. It means you can get in at lower investment. But once you got to like super high investment, the damage wasn't an issue, the duration was. And now it's got a little bit less duration. But it should launch out more projectiles and deal more damage, even though it lasts. I mean, previously it was 250% duration, now it's 240%, so it's not a huge change. And Fall Lightning Strike nerf. Okay, on to supports. Arcane Surge got a damage buff, but and its cast speed buffed at low levels, but its mana regen nerfed across the board, except for at level 1. Archmage nerf, thank God. Well, I don't think got anything to do with this one. Ooh, Awakened Spell Echo buff. That's nice. A little bit less mana cost, and also it lost its 10% less damage. Infused Channeling, a little bit tankier on those to help with those channeling things. Returning projectiles, slight damage nerf. That makes sense. 66% less damage while returning, as opposed to the previous 61 at max level. Still 70 at base. Okay, Ascendancy changes. This is going to change some stuff for me. The Defy Pain Ascendancy passive skill has been reworked. It now causes you to gain Defiance for 10 seconds on losing life to an enemy hit, no more than once every 0.3 seconds. It also causes you to gain 3% of missing unreserved life before being hit by an enemy per Defiance. It causes you to lose all Defiance when you reach 10 Defiance. Oh! So Berserker's very tanky now. I mean, obviously you lose when you hit your 10 stacks of Defiance, so this isn't perfect. But at 1 stack you have 3, 2 stacks 6, and so on. Oh no. Which means that on average, as long as I've done my math correctly here, I don't know why I did it the hard way, but on average, Defy Pain gives you gain 15% of missing unreserved life before being hit by an enemy. Again, on average. What does Defiance of Destiny, the actual amulet, give you? Defiance of Destiny can roll 10 to 20%, and this gives you, scaling from 0 to 27, but on average 15%. Maybe a little less. I think I might have done my math a little wrong there. But still, that's very tanky for Berserker. That's very, very nice. The Blitz Ascendancy skill has been replaced with a new notable Gore Dance, which gives 30% of your life leech is instant, requires Aspect of Carnage. Oh my god, Berserker! Berserker's eating good these patch notes. Flawless Savagery Ascendancy Passers replace the new notable Ancestral Fury, which causes your strike skills to also target the previous location. I feel like that one's not huge. Because that's already in the game, plus it was in the Freesia event. But still, Gore Dancer and Defy Pain, I feel like are both kind of insane for Berserker's survivability. 30% of your life leech is instant. And a scaling a scaling Defiance of Destiny effect. That seems nice. Oh, little champion buff here. Fortitude now causes you to just have your maximum fortification. Usually, or previously, it was just 15. And nearby allies count of having fortification equal to yours. So champion now has more reason to scale maximum fortification. Unstoppable no longer causes nearby allies to count as having fortification. Okay, that got moved over to Fortitude. And it now grants 3% more armor and evasion rating per fortification above 20. And 3% increased attack speed per fortification above 20. Champion Aura bot? Like, Champion as like a fortification bot? Worthy Foe no longer requires Conqueror and now has you taunt on hit. Conqueror Ascendancy has been replaced with a new Worthy Causes notable. That grants having a placed banner does not prevent you from gaining Valor, and banner skills have increased duration. Champions. Okay, it seems like they've done some good stuff to these Ascendancies. Guardian. Harmony of Purpose Ascending skills have been reworked, cause you to gain a random shrine buff every 10 seconds. Not bad. Especially if its duration can scale with like the Atlas Notables and I believe the Gull that cause increased duration. Unwavering Faith just gives you 15% increased reservation efficiency of skills. I need to check something to make sure I'm not... Yeah, okay, so you lose a little bit of aura potential. It used to be that auras grant 5% increased recovery rate of life, energy, and mana and energy shield. Life, mana, energy shield. So you lose a little bit of tankiness, but 50% increased reservation efficiency? That's kind of sick. Guardian, Champion, and Scion, all three seem like they could be pretty good for aura bots now. Champion based around Fortitude. I don't know how you really scale max Fortitude. I feel like the max you can get is like 22 or something like that. But if you can scale max Fortitude up to whatever, that's very tanky plus attack speed on Champion. Guardian, just with that 50% increase, allows you to just have so many auras. Oof. Rest in peace, Hierophant. Sanctuary of Thought no longer provides 25% increase. By the way, this is just reservation. That's life and mana, unless they change it. 25% increased mana reservation efficiency of skills. Nope. No 50% less mana cost of skills. Nope. Regen 1% of mana per second. Ooh, that sucks. Saboteur, though. New Shrapnel Specialist, which causes projectiles to have a 50% chance to return to you and are fired in random directions. Saboteur seems like, even just with that, is nice. Especially if that works with trigger bots. You're just constantly triggering so many projectiles that they have a chance to return to you. Might be able to do some Saboteur Eye of Winter stuff with returning projectiles because you don't have to worry about the massive damage loss, even though only 50% of them return to you. So it's kind of a 50% damage loss. Explosives Expert has been replaced with a new notable Calculated Risk, which causes your critical strike chance to be lucky and damage with hits to be unlucky. Yeah, I guess you just scale crit multi. The damage with hits is unfortunate. I don't think that. I think that'll be nice early for guaranteed crits, but Polymath, a little bit of a damage nerf, that makes sense. And Escape Artist, a little bit of defensive nerf, that makes sense. Okay, here we go. Elementalist. Shaper of Storms no longer has 25% more effective lightning elements you inflict if the highest damage type is lightning. It now has shocks from your hit always increase damage by at least 25%. Okay. So now your shocks are better. Your shocks are just better across the board if you're doing a lot of small hits that aren't lightning damage. Shaper of Winter no longer has 50% more effects of cold if it's the highest is cold. It does not have chills from your hits always reduce action speed, or your chills can reduce action speed by up to 40%. It now causes enemies chilled by your hits lessen their damage dealt by half of chilled effect. Enemies chilled by your hits have damage taken increased by chill effect. I mean, definitely you don't slow enemies down nearly as much, but if you get big cold hits, then frozen enemies take 100% increased damage. Now, that's not double damage, 100% increase, but still, it's nice. Shaper of Flames no longer has 25% more damage with ignites you inflict with hits with highest damage as fire. It now causes enemies ignited by you to convert 40% of their physical damage to fire. I feel like that's really nice because I feel like most Ignite builds that used Shaper of Flames didn't have their highest as fire. I mean, they started out like that, but I feel like a lot of like good Ignite Shaper of Flames builds. I guess the 25% more damage was actually nice for like the ballistas with Explosive Arrow. I was more so thinking of exclusively EK Ignite, which was chaos damage. So for EK Ignite, that's literally just like a defensive upgrade, which is really nice. Legion Primordial gives you 2 to the maximum number of summon golems instead of 1, and they're immune to elemental damage. Dang. And Elemancer has been replaced with the new notable Bringer of Ruin, which grants 66% increased mana reservation efficiency of Herald skills, and 66% increased Herald skill buff effect. And it no longer requires Legion of the Primordial. Okay. It's not bad, honestly. I love Heralds, don't get me wrong. Oh, that's a decent nerf. Elemental Mastery that causes hits to have a chance to treat enemy monster elemental resistances values as inverted. It's now 15% instead of 25%. Life Leech passive provides 10% of instant leech is now 5, which is actually just a big buff to, like an even bigger buff to that Berserker. Berserker's going to be so tanky this league. Berserker's just going to be insanely tanky. Link passive mastery that granted elemental elements inflicted on you instead of link targets has been replaced. Causes enemies in your link beams to be unable to apply elemental elements. Wand passive mastery that grants unnerve enemies on hit with wands has been replaced with one that provides 25% increased reservation efficiency of skills supported by Spellslinger. On top of Spellslinger's default lower reservation efficiency now, I mean, how often do people get unnerve on hit? That's actually pretty damn good. Additional passive skill tree changes related to both casters and cold damage that we're finalizing. Hopefully it's mostly like buffs for Eye of Winter, so that my second build can be a cast on crit Eye of Winter using that new axe that also casts Starfall. I'm just throwing out Eyes of Winter everywhere with the Starfalls falling down. That'll be sick. Balance of Terrors unaffected by freeze if you cast Frostbite. Now properly grants unaffected instead of immunity. That is nice. I love unaffected in this game. Specifically with like Fulcrum, the unaffected by Ignite, but unaffected by freeze. You've cast Frostbite. So now you can self-freeze, which counts as 100% chill for... I believe it counts 100% chill for reverse chill stuff, so that could be very nice. Bitterbind Point now has significantly higher spell crit chance per raised specter, but it doesn't have any increased damage, which 30 to 50% is not nothing, but that's a potential 100% increased spell crit chance per raised specter. And they had something there that I think had +2 maximum raised specters. That's one of its possible unveils. Bitterbind Point might be the like legitimate best for specter spell crit stuff with a proper unveil. Pain of Kulamok can now rarely be found with 4 veiled. That could be sick. Devouring Diadem no longer provides +1 to level of socketed, but if it has any good, good veiled options, perfectly fine. Ephemeral Edge now has attacks with this weapon have added lethal damage equal to 10 to 15% instead of 20. Existing items versions of this item can be made worse. Yeah, Ephemeral Edge was very strong. Mercenaries' lot unique gloves are no longer part of the core drop pool. It can instead be found equipped by certain mercenaries. It also has 8% of damage from hits is taken from marked target's life before you. Before you or before your life? I'm thinking before you, and it's marked target's life before you. So theoretically, you could mark a rogue exile that has CI, and they would die the instant you take damage. They probably won't do that, but because it does say life, but I would not be surprised if it doesn't work like that. The Nadir mode unique jewel now causes spells to have 30 to 50% increased crit chance per intensity, previously 30. Okay, so you can just get better crit chance. A lot of good spell crit stuff. Raise specters and cast spells. Do specters count as spells? I don't know. Queen's Hunger unique body armors. Triggered offering skills are now triggered in a set order rather than random. It no longer provides increased cast speed. I think that set order is going to be good. So I'm pretty sure I remember a build that I wanted to do once. Didn't end up doing it with Necromancer, so you'd have your offerings affect you. And the whole thing was like, you want Queen's Hunger. So it triggers these offering skills. But there was a chance that you could just, like, get unlucky and not get the right offering, like, 4 times in a row, and then, oh, well, sucks to suck. Okay, Relikesh's Impatience now have 1 of count as having max endurance, count as having max frenzy, or count as having max power. They now also have 15 to 25% increased move speed and immune to corrupted blood. Yeah, Relikesh, I mean, honestly, it needed that. Relikesh was just so strong. Just way too strong. You can stack max frenzy charges. You don't need a way to actually generate them, but you can benefit from them. I mean, they'll still be very good, the power charge variant for just like spell crit, you know. No health, ZHP, just like phasing uber bosses, but you won't get the frenzy charge bonuses. And I don't think you ever really cared about the endurance charge bonuses. Bunch of item changes here. Bunch of scarab changes. They have said they haven't even done it. Drop chance of orbs of regret has been lowered, which increased the drop chances of other currency items, which is fine because of gold respec staying in the game. Weapons and armor with multiple attribute requirements now have a lower chance to roll attribute modifiers. Not a huge fan, but okay. Life and Mana Leech on equipment can now roll as... Oh, Life and Mana Leech is a suffix instead of a prefix. Oh, that's going to change some endgame crafting. Kind of makes sense, though. I feel like generally... Oh, never mind. I was about to say suffixes are more defensive, but no, life is a prefix. Energy shield's a prefix. I was just thinking of resistances. Scepters, staves, rune daggers, and wands now roll attack modifiers left often. War staves and attack daggers are unaffected by this change. Yeah, wand attackers are not doing amazing things. They're doing okay things. Some buffs have helped, but crafting match modifiers for increased mana regen rate have also been updated to be higher on two-handed weapons. Okay. Resistance modifiers can no longer be rolled or crafted on muffins. Synthesis implicit resistance no longer roll. Redeemer's prefix modifier on influence talents for physical damage taken as cold no longer has the higher than expected values compared to fire and lightning equivalents. Also resulted in elevated versions having lower than expected values. I think elevated now, I think elevated stays the same, but cold as it's non-elevated. That's what I said meant earlier when I was saying ascended, by the way. Ow. I smacked my hand on my desk while moving it. Failed and crafting match modifiers, the grant area effect and level of socketed, projectile pierce and level of socketed, and melee strike range and level of socketed can no longer roll on gloves. Just helmets. That is a little tough. I'm going to have to change some stuff around in quite a few builds. Hybrid added elemental damage veiled and crafting match modifiers can now roll on amulets in addition to rings, shields, and quivers. Adds a little bit of bloat, but... Avian Pursuit's temporarily disabled. Bargain Divination card is re-enabled with Flawless Breachstone. Mayor is re-enabled with the Light of Meaning Unique Jewel. Monochrome is re-enabled with the Puzzle Box. Somebody's Wisdom is re-enabled Towards a corrupted tabula with 2 implicit modifiers. Nice. Squandered Prosperity is re-enabled. Towards corrupted the Light of Meaning. Right. Underground Forest is re-enabled with 10 Grand Eldritch Ichors. Nice. Ruthless, who cares? As Merry Monsters located around ritual altars can no longer drop omens. A little disappointing, I think. Oh, here's our Kirak map mods. Map crafting options now also grant 50% increased chance for scarabs to be found to be that type. Added the Settlers, which cost 3 Chaos Orb, cost to contain ore deposits. This now costs more Chaos, 5 instead of 4. Caused the area to contain 3 additional abysses instead of 2. I think that's generally a good thing. Ambush is cheaper. Anarchy is much more expensive. 3 times more expensive, 2 to 6 Chaos, but now it contains 7 instead of 3 Rogue Exiles. Beyond is cheaper, Blight is cheaper, Breach is cheaper, Delirium is cheaper, Essence is cheaper, but you get 1 less monster, Expedition is cheaper, Harbinger's cheaper, and gives an extra Harbinger. Harbinger eating good this league. I do love Harpy. Heist is a little bit more expensive, but you get an extra Smuggler's Cache. Legion is more expensive, but you get 2 additional Legion counters instead of 1. Ritual is just a little bit more expensive. Torment, 4 Chaos instead of 2, but you get 8 Tormented Spirits instead of 3. That's nice for people who like Torment. And then Ultimatum is a little bit cheaper. Nice. Focus Channeling is given as a reward. Dawn of the Hunt Mystery Box has been enabled for use in PoE 2. Dodge roll effects are Quicksilver Flasks. Witch Hunter and Ghoul Hunter crossbow skins are back attachments. Okay. Some extra effects got cooldown, or added a cooldown to them. Enabled Executioner's Guillotine. Nice, I do have that one. I think. That was just like a Twitch drop or something, right? Pretty sure I have that one. And then a bunch of bug fixes. Cool. And chicken is better than steak, according to Fire Pandas. Cool. Overall, I really like what this patch is looking to bring. I've always wanted to play an Orobot, and even though I play in like a private league, rather than just going straight to trade with like a pretty like tight-knit isn't exactly the word I want to use, but like it's close enough. Community that I could probably just ask around. I think it's really fun. Kind of like, not really fun. Well, yeah, it's really fun, but really funny to play as a solo Orobot and just have your mercenary do everything for you. So that's my plan. I'm just gonna take like I forget if it's on Snaps or Haloplasm's channel, but typically, oh yeah, old name jump scare by the way. Typically, I think it's on Snap's channel where they upload like team builds, like Path of Buildings. I'm just gonna grab the duo one. I will be following the Orobot one, and I will try my best to find a mercenary, since you can gear the mercenaries yourself. If it ends up being like a Spark player as the main carry for this league, I'll look for like an intelligence-based one who casts something similar to Spark. If it ends up being a Tornado Shot... Oh, I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure Tornado Shot wasn't changed. I feel like I would have noticed it. Yeah, Tornado Shot wasn't. But if it ends up being something like a Lightning Arrow or something, that I'll find a Dex one who has it. Maybe I'll find something else that works even better. But that's my plan. I'm going to be a solo Orobot. So once Secrets of the Atlas launches in 8 days on June 13th, well, feel free to join me for that. Solo Orobot's Adventures. I'll also be posting occasional YouTube updates to how the build is going. So, like I said in the last video, sorry about that for all those people who don't like Path of Exile. Though I feel like if you're watching this video, you probably at least, are interested in Path of Exile. So, Anyway, see you then.